to this week's edition of Dolphin Radio. I'm Brad Michaels. We're joined with Chris Barker and, of course, my co-host John Bach. Breaking news broke last night. Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, he has signed off on the trade terms to get Deshaun Watson to become a Miami Dolphin in a trade with the Houston Texans. Now, Watson has also signed his no trade clause. He has waived that only for the Dolphins. But John, I don't think we can get this trade done by Tuesday.
I don't see how. If you get through the legal problems and sort everything out, you can do it by Tuesday, November 2nd. More or less to have the NFL come back to you and put him on the exempt list. There is no way this trade can happen within the deadline. So obviously that pushes us where this trade may not be completed till next April.
And that's what I'm thinking, that this is something that they've agreed to in principle. Supposedly it is the 3 first-rounders, but other than that, we're not sure if he's giving up the second-rounders for Watson. But I think this is something that's going to have to happen in the offseason. And then, like you said, we're going to have to see what the commissioner does. Ben Roethlisberger only had 1 accusation against him, and he didn't even have criminal charges pending, and he was suspended for 6 games. Chris, what is your take on this trade?
I think it's just, like we've been saying, it's going to probably go down in the offseason, if at all. I mean, if he's probably more than likely going to be suspended for, at least 8 games. So, I would look for, once everything comes into place, I would think the NFL would probably come down on, the punishment, so on and so forth. But I'd look for an 8-game suspension.
I would look for an 8-game as well. What do you think, John?
It might be 8 games. It might be the whole year. It could be 2 years. Could be an indefinite suspension. The point I would say is, how do you even get through this trade? What's it going to do to the organization trying to move forward with your quarterback that you took with the 5th pick in the draft? How's it going to affect the teammates around him, the coaching staff, the people that coach here? Does Watson, maybe he has a disagreement with one of the coaches even? So in order for him to work out, and then now it's not the same trade it was. We're losing the 2021 season. So those 3, and his contract is burning another year. So it's a completely different deal now.
Absolutely. And, just the legal questions alone, Watson has said he does not want to settle with any of the 22 women that have come forward. We still haven't heard from the grand jury. We don't know what they're going to do. If this turns into a criminal situation, there has to be some sort of a side clause before this agreement goes through, and Ross has actually kind of said that. He wants to see what's going to happen in the courts, what's going to happen with the legal situation.
Well, you're going to have the draft in April. So no matter what, at least one of our picks are gone. So even if we give up one number 1 pick for someone who never sees the field as a Dolphin because these legal issues, is enough to be scared about.
Would you, if you were Stephen Ross, would you have said, look, we'll do it contingent upon the legal issues are straightened out by the time the draft comes around?
Well, that's what has to be done. But again, with pending court cases, they can take years. So say that 10 of them are wrapped up, and we still have 5 or 8 cases or 22, whatever the number is. There's 22 total cases out there. There's 10 under criminal indictment right now. Say you got rid of 5 of them. Well, then what happens? So this timeline, I think it was a poor decision for this team to move forward with this trade as of now, the way things stand.
Well, and you've got a young quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, and I've always said this might be his 2nd year officially of experience, but I think he's still a rookie. He didn't quite learn the playbook last year. He still had the injury problems, and he wasn't completely 100%, nor was he comfortable in the offense. Chris, if as a fan you're looking in on this, what kind of a message to you does this send to Tua Tagovailoa? Is he done in Miami?
If I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I would really be bothered by this latest news that's thrown around. So, I mean, it's hard. I don't think he's done, but he's probably real concerned about his job security as a Miami Dolphin.
Well, and you got to think about this too, John. He's just come back from the 3 weeks on injured reserve. Both of the games, his numbers have been not bad. It was like 95-something last week, his quarterback rating, and this past week, despite the losses, was 105.9.
Yeah, it's a complete
109.5.
It's an enigma right now. The Dolphin Digest wrote last week that, Tua isn't playing bad, but he's not playing great. But he's not really playing for the pick that we picked him at with the number 5 overall.
No.
And that's what everyone's disappointed in. We want to see more out of Tua.
We want to see a Justin Herbert.
But how about this first stat? There's only been 2 quarterbacks that have been thrown 4 touchdown passes and lost a game, and Tua was the second one in NFL history to do so.
Yeah. Well, and there was another interesting stat, something about Ryan Tannehill. He didn't throw for 400 yards until like his 44th game.
Yeah, well, I was never a Tannehill fan. I'm happy that he's playing well now. I always thought Tannehill was a day late and a dollar short with the football. He didn't throw guys open. He waited the guys were open to throw it to him. But he's playing just good enough to give you hope. But at the same time, the turnovers and some of the things that he's done, the short passing game, it's making a lot of fans frustrated. But I went back and I was watching the NFL Network, and they replayed the short turnover that we had, the short pass.
Right.
And really, if Waddle just sat down, it's a completed ball and it's a great football play. So as much as you want to beat up on Tua, he played very well. We didn't care for the interception in the end zone. But again, and the second turnover looks horrible on the replay until you slow it down. And if Waddle just sat up right there in the hole and didn't move away from the football, that would have been completed. It would have been a second turnover, and probably the Dolphins would have won that game.
Yeah, I was just like you. When we scored to go ahead and we left Matt Ryan just under 2.5 minutes to go, and I don't remember exactly how many timeouts they had, but I think they had at least 2. And it could have been 1. But you give Matt Ryan that much time, and all he's got to do is go down the field maybe 35 yards to get into field goal position, you're going to lose. Everybody was like, hey, the Dolphins are going to finally win a game, and I'm like, not so fast.
Well, I said that I was out in Fort Lauderdale at Flanagan's, a little pub there.
There you go.
And I actually walked out of the restaurant with 2 minutes and 17 seconds left. I'm like, I can't watch this. You can't. I mean, Matt Ryan is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, and you can't leave a quarterback like him or Brady or Stafford or anybody that much time on the clock. Josh Rosen or Josh Allen, and expect to pull that out. So I saved myself the pain. I actually walked out of the restaurant 2 minutes early.
I wish I'd have been that smart to
and
walk out
I
of
waited
the
for them in the parking lot.
Well, the other thing, too, is not only did you have Matt Ryan on the other side of the field, but you've got a guy in Kyle Pitts who we couldn't stop all day. He was a man on fire.
I love my tight ends. I'm a Howard Schoenberg guy, and we always love our tight ends. I thought Kyle Pitts was the number 1 player in the draft. He's just somebody that really, fits the kind of game that I like to watch, being that tight end that's also a wide receiver. He played outstanding. He played lights out, and at least he's a Florida guy, so we can root for him there.
Absolutely. We can't root for him in that point, but only when he's not playing against the Dolphins. Chris, we've got an interesting game coming up this week. We're on our way to Buffalo. Buffalo came in here and destroyed us in our home opener, 35-0. Now, you and your mom are taking off at 5:30 in the morning on Saturday to fly to Buffalo to put up with those fans. But I want to get your what do you think is going to happen? Are the Dolphins actually going to come out and make a statement game, especially with everything that's going on that we just talked about? What do you think?
I would hope that, these guys will come out, with a sense of urgency and, light on, under their, just be more competitive. I'm not saying they're going to win, but at least show that they have heart and they play with emotion. And I would, a big upset in Buffalo would come a long way because with everything going on. But I'd look for a better, at least a bit more better performance than last week's game. But
well, and I think a better performance than any games that we've seen in any of the weeks so far.
Right, and I look for just. I'm hoping that they can pull the upset, but it's going to be real tough to win up in Buffalo. It always has been. It always will be tough to win up there.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. Prediction for this weekend's game?
Yeah, I'm a Dolphin at heart, but I'm going to say Jason Sanders kicks the winning field goal by. It's going to be 23-20.
There you have it.
I'll take it.
I'll take that. Anything in the win column, I'm going to be happy with. We'll take a break. When we come back, John and I will break down last Sunday's game and look at the game coming up against Buffalo. All right, once again, welcome back to Dolphin Radio. John, 1-6. Every week has gotten tough since the opener in New England, and we start to see a little bit of a glimmer of hope. Tua has been back. He's played well in the 2 games he's been back despite the losses. His quarterback rating is good. Just a few key mistakes at certain times in the game that's changed the entire outcome of the game. What was your biggest take looking back on the statistics and this last weekend's loss to the Falcons?
Well, I'm not going to put this all on the offense this week. The 2 turnovers were crucial. The 1 turnover, as we talked about earlier, probably shouldn't have happened. If Waddle sat down, it would have been a great play. The 1 in the end zone is inexcusable to have a pick in the end zone and then take points off the board. But I think we have to look at our defense a little bit. We're almost last in the league in third down defense. They were at 47% this week. They were averaging 52% on third down conversions. And 50%, we've talked about this all year, 50% on third downs winning football. So if your defense is giving the other offense first downs when they shouldn't be getting them, it's going to create a problem for everybody.
Well, and you're right. And I'm also looking at, number one, like you said, they can't get off the field on third down. But the big plays, the big chunks of plays. Kyle Pitts had that 1 catch for 50-plus yards. Kyle Pitts beat them up all day long. They had no answer for covering a tight end. And it seems like that's kind of the key thing with this defense this year. There's nobody back there in that linebacker core or in the safety core that's playing well enough that they're picking up the tight ends. We're getting killed by tight ends.
Oh, and Van Ginkel didn't play well at all. So I saw the one play on the sideline where Van Ginkel went over to make the tackle. He didn't tackle the guy like a linebacker. He tackled the guy like a defensive back
with his shoulder.
And just went his shoulders down, hands down, and then Pitts got the first down because of that because he went 2 yards over him. Yeah. So our linebackers aren't tackling. They're not covering very well. That's not true. Van Ginkel didn't cover very well. I'm still a big fan of Roberts. I think he's playing well. Racone Davis, I think, is playing outstandingly. We got to get more production out of Jalen Phillips, who's another fellow first-round pick.
Fell off a little bit this week after we talked about it in the previous 2.
The offense played well enough for us to win.
Yeah. Well, I think that the biggest thing, like you mentioned, our defense, we've seen such a drop in the defensive production from last year. It does have a lot to do with the injuries, and we've talked about this week in and week out. These are on the defensive side of the ball. You're looking at guys like Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, and others that are losing time with these stupid little nagging injuries that we think are preventable. Devontae Parker type injuries. Yeah, so we're losing him. Preston Williams was in the game. Will Fuller still out with that broken finger, and supposedly he's not going to be ready to go this week either.
Yeah, that training room's, they got to put their work in that training room. Get these guys healthy. I don't know if you have to look at their diets. I don't know if you have to look at the conditioning or what you have to look at. But this team has had nagging injuries for years now. For years.
And it seems like every single year we come into the season with a lot of hope, and it's those injuries. They start to pile up. And in the case of our receiver room this year, most of those guys have not strung together multiple games in a row. Much less have they even seen the field. Preston Williams didn't see the field for the first 5 weeks or 4?
Did he see it last week?
I didn't hear his name called, and I was looking at the stats, and I was looking at this week. I didn't really look at the individual stats except for the one guy we've been talking about week in and week out, Myles Gaskin. Again, a 4.5-yard average. We're not using him enough. We're trying to, for some reason, to establish ourselves as a passing team.
Yeah, but you're taking your tight end out of the game doing that way. Even though Gesicki's has got some great catches. He's doing well. I wish he wouldn't celebrate after every time he got the ball.
Right.
I mean, that's your job. Get the ball over the middle and get the first down. There's been enough times where you've gone down short of the first down.
Well, I was just going to say.
So he was all fired up early in the game. But Myles Gaskin, in my opinion, is the best back. And I've been saying it all year. I think he gives us the best chance to win when he runs it enough times.
Absolutely, and I just don't understand why the Dolphins aren't utilizing him enough. I don't know if he's getting banged up in the middle of the game and they have to rest him because he just can't go.
No, he wasn't the primary back in the last 3 games.
Malcolm Brown.
Malcolm Brown and even Ahmed has played more than him.
And now Brown goes to the injured reserve.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's good for us because I think Myles Gaskin is a player that we can count on. I think he catches the ball well in the backfield. You give him enough touches, he's going to get his 4.5 yards. He's had a couple okay games, but usually he only got 5 attempts. He needs 20 attempts, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that. And going into the season, and I think I said it in one of the shows, I thought Malcolm Brown was going to be more of the goal line specialist or the guy that they're going to bring in to get that first down on 3rd and 1, or if we decide to go for it on 4th and inches. I really thought that the bulk of the workload was going to be split between Gaskin and Ahmed.
Well, that's what I thought to begin with as well. But and Malcolm Brown, I mean, they're not running it enough on 1st and 2nd down. And they're not doing enough counters, powers, ISOs, and traps. So because you're not doing enough of that, you're not setting up the play action of the tight end. Gesicki, many feel is one of the best tight ends in the league. You have to be creative to get him the ball, and a lot of that's off play action. So we're not seeing nearly enough play action.
Well, and we've said that before. I think we talk about that almost every week. If you would set up the play action, sometimes. And I think I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up that pass, to establish that pass, to take a little bit of weight off of the running game. But I don't think that they need to necessarily do that. I think that our running backs, if you give them enough carries, they pound it into that line. It's like Derrick Henry. He gets stronger, and his yards per carry go up as the game goes on, and he gets more and more carries. And I think if they would stick with that, that would set up that play action pass and open up our passing game even more than we've noticed it opening up the past 2 weeks.
Well, I think if you run the ball more, that you're going to limit the mistakes in the passing game, which you've had a lot of mistakes in the passing game. And like I said all year, I wanted us to be a team that could run the football, throw play action, and keep us in manageable 3rd down. Dolphins did a great job this week at 52% on 3rd down.
Yep.
It's
probably
as good
about
as we
the
can hope
best
for.
we've done.
We dominated time of possession again this week with 34 minutes. So they're doing enough. We need probably just a little bit more to help keep that defense off the field even more. But then again, some of the guys on our defense, Xavier Howard, we paid you a lot of money. You got to start making some more plays.
Absolutely. One of the other things that I think was and we've noticed this. We've noticed inconsistency from a lot of the units. We lost the previous week. We lost to Jacksonville. Sanders has a missed field goal in that game. This weekend against the Falcons, he had one blocked. And, of course, we lose by 2 points. So those have been the difference makers, and this is 2 games in a row. We've lost on the last play. Attitude and the mood in the locker room with the losing, and then now let's go back to the Deshaun Watson trade, and is that going to happen? And what does that do? I mean, we're at 1-6. Is this season going to end up being 1-15? These players going to give up? Or I guess I got to ask it. Has Flores lost the locker room? It's being talked about.
It's an interesting question. I don't think he's lost the locker room, but he may have lost some players. I mean, there are guys who came in with Tua, and that's their guy. Yeah. We've had a boatload of draft picks over the last 2 years, and they believe in Tua. And they're supposed to believe in him. That's the reason we drafted him so high. And he's playing well enough not to get fired, but he's not playing great enough for us to win.
Exactly, and the mental mistakes with the interception in the end zone, of course, that's correctable. But if you didn't have, if the game planning was a little bit different, the outcomes might be a little different because, as I said, I mean, Tua had, I believe it was 95-something last week with his quarterback rating, and this past weekend, despite the loss, was 109.5. Those are good. That's a good quarterback rating, despite 2 interceptions in that game.
It's funny. I was coaching college football, and I decided to make a decision to bench 2 of my scholarship players and get this short, skinny walk-on. I was going to play him. And Arnie Romero, for University of Miami Hurricane fans, Arnie Romero was a long-time defensive line coach for University of Miami and one of the best recruiters in college football. And Arnie stood up to me in the meeting and goes, "You know what? That kid's just good enough to get you beat." And he was fighting me on it. Our decision worked out by playing this kid at center, but Arnie Romero made a great point. And that's kind of what I'm seeing too. Is he's just good enough to get you beat. Now he's young. I think he has talent. I think he's going to improve. I don't want the Watson trade, but I didn't want to draft Tua. I would have traded that pick unless I was absolutely sure he was my guy. I would have traded that pick away. We had enough draft capital built up over those 3 years that we didn't need a quarterback. We wanted one, but we were building an entire roster. And we turned it over to a rookie who got hurt and then has got hurt again, and he's struggling, but he's playing just good enough to give you hope, but you're still not winning, and it makes the franchise, it makes everybody a little nervous. I mean, Ross is an old guy. He wants to win now.
I understand that, but at what expense do you go for the win now philosophy with a guy like Deshaun Watson, who has so many question marks at this point about whether or not he might ever even play again? So you've taken the team, in my opinion, you've kind of turned it completely upside down. You've got a lot of players, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but you're going to have some players in that locker room that are going to be a little upset that this Deshaun Watson talk was even taking place, much less that it got as far as it did.
Well, there's two things going on right now. One is Deshaun Watson is really opposing all this and saying he's not going to pay people off and do all that because he's innocent.
Right. And he says if he pays people off, that would be like an admission of guilt. Right.
The second side of this is most of the security directors in the NFL on the teams are ex-law enforcement, they're ex-FBI, they're ex-military police. These guys do their homework and do their jobs. So you would have to think that this organization has gotten enough from the head of security for the Miami Dolphins to make them think that most of these issues are going to go away, that he really didn't do it. So there's been a lot of research by a lot of people on this topic, and they're sharing information.
Right.
The allegations alone will alienate women from this franchise right now.
Oh, absolutely. And it's alienated a lot of men, too.
Well, a lot of people. I should have put it that way, but I think they've done enough homework where they think Deshaun Watson's innocent of these charges, and people are jumping on board to get paid. There's 22 complaints, all from massage parlors. Now, you can even ask Robert Kraft. He likes going to a massage parlor every now and then.
Absolutely. And that went away. I'm not sure. I don't even know what happened in the legal proceedings with that. I think the case was dismissed eventually. You have to wonder, like you said, I think that somehow, in the background of all of this, that they've been working out the settlement with the 22 women who have made the allegations. They have to know somehow either that the grand jury is actually not going to meet, that the prosecutors in Houston aren't going to bring charges in this case. But then it still comes to the commissioner. What is Roger Goodell going to do? Because, like I said earlier, we already know that he has suspended players for a lot less than what Deshaun Watson was facing. Deshaun Watson has 22 accusers, 10 of which have gone the criminal route pending. And Roethlisberger was suspended 6 games because one woman stepped forward and said something. And he was cleared.
That's true.
So it's conduct detrimental to the league, and the commissioner's got a lot of leeway when it comes to that type of decision.
Yes, he does. But at the same time, everyone wants all these problems worked out with these 22 women. Problem is 10 is in the criminal system right now. I don't think it's legal. I don't think legally you're allowed to speak to a potential victim when it's in the legal system.
I don't either.
Without tampering with obstruction of justice.
And that brings in a whole other thing. So we have to wait for the courts to decide what they're going to do, which if it's going to get done, there's no way it's going to get done by Tuesday. Absolutely, there's just no way. But if it's going to get done, the legal system, it drags and drags and drags. I don't know if they're going to be able to even get it done by the time training camp opens.
It could be a long, long time. There's you have 22 potential defendants in a civil or criminal case. Currently, you have 10 in a criminal case. You have an additional 12 in a potential civil case. It wouldn't be anything for Deshaun Watson to settle with everybody. I mean, you gave them all $200,000 apiece. That's $4.4 million. you walk from it.
And you walk away from it.
But if you try to offer somebody that's in the criminal proceeding,
That's
which is
tampering
10
with a
of them,
witness.
that's a tampering with a witness and obstruction of justice, that's a whole new fledge of problems. So I wish the Dolphins wouldn't have done this. I wish they would have let sleeping dogs lie and try to develop to it to the best of their ability. The fact that they've gone this route, it's made everything entirely more difficult for this franchise.
Well, it certainly is a head scratcher. And I mean, I understand from Ross's standpoint. Like you said, Ross is 81 years old. He wants to win now. He's wanted to win since he came here, but he's gone about it, and there's been several moves that he has made as an owner that are head scratchers. And I think this is probably the biggest head scratcher. I don't really know what else to say about it. I feel like we've talked about Deshaun Watson. We came out on our first show right here at Bo Campers, and thank you to Bo Campers for letting us do the show from here. We said that in our first show. It was one of the first things that we said. We said, put the Deshaun Watson talk to rest. It's not going to happen. It's going to go away. And it just kept on. As each week went on, it kept on persisting. And I think it really persisted even more to the point where we've gotten now when Tua went down in week 2 against Buffalo with the rib injury.
I mean, they've created this atmosphere, and they're going to have to deal with this atmosphere. And I hope the team and the coaching staff and the rest of the organization is capable of helping this team get through this difficult time. Since these rumors have been brought up, there's been agreements that have been reported on television, on the radios. They're reading this in the paper every day. It's a very difficult situation for the Miami Dolphins.
Very difficult situation indeed, which brings us back to what we talked about with Chris before we took the break. Buffalo on the road. They already beat us really, really bad here in week 2, the home opener. Now we go on the road. At least it's not going to be snowing. It's not going to be bitter cold. But still, it is the Buffalo Bills, which many think are not only the best team in the AFC, but might be the best team in the entire National Football League.
Oh, when the schedule came out, we were so happy to see that we're playing Buffalo early in the year, and we didn't have to go there in rainy and cold November or December. And all of a sudden now, this game, because of what's happened this year, this game, it doesn't really matter right now anyways. But I don't see Buffalo. I mean, even see what happened with Jacksonville when their coach was on the hot seat last week. 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Even they rebounded, overcame it, and then beat us out in London. So don't think Miami can't win this game. They're certainly capable of winning this game. Buffalo is certainly capable of overlooking us.
That's what I was just going to say. Are they going to overlook us?
And then all those young draft choices, hopefully they rally around Tua and say he's our guy.
That's what I would like to see. I would like to see all of guys like Waddle, obviously a former teammate of Tua's at Alabama. All of these other young guys, Gesicki, every one of them. Everybody on not only the offense but the defense. I'd like to see the whole team rally around Tua on the road and say, you know what, we're going to get this thing done because we're going to show the coaching staff, we're going to show the fans, and we're going to show the NFL that we don't really need Deshaun Watson and we can actually get rid of all that talk. I mean, obviously, if the deal is going to be done, it's going to be done. But I'd like to see the team just kind of bond together, really bond together this week as a team and as one unit, not just defense and offense and then the special teams. Let's come together as a full team. Let's support our young quarterback, and let's make a statement.
I would love to see that happen. I'd like to see the other young draft picks rally around their guy. And right now their guy is Tua. Deshaun's got his issues. He's a very talented player.
He's a game changer if he can play.
Maybe. I mean, I always hear that a guy's a difference maker. We see quarterbacks. We've had 9 quarterbacks move around the league this year, and only a couple of them are really game changers. One being Tom Brady, one being Matt Stafford, and Matt Ryan still sitting there in the back on an average team, which he got beat by. Right. So, there's so many things to look at right now. But the one thing I'd like to see is that team gel and bond and rally around their guy, because half of that team is from the 2 draft classes.
Absolutely. We got a lot of young guys on this team, and that brings me to another point that's being talked about, that some of the players, according to, I believe it was the New York Post, said that some of the players said that the reason for the losing streak, the skid, has been because they don't have that veteran leadership, the Kyle Van Noy's, the Eric Flowers. They don't have those guys on the team this year, and that's part of part of the missing puzzle. That's part of the puzzle piece that's missing, I guess.
We talked about that in week 2, that there was none of the older guys to hold some of these young guys accountable, and that we didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
Were they going out to South Beach every Thursday night, Wednesday night? Were they partying too much? Were they not paying attention, watching film enough? So this is a topic we discussed over and over again, where we question the lack of leadership in that locker room. So whoever the leaders are really have to step up, and they start bringing this whole team together.
They absolutely have to step up, and it needs to happen this week, because despite the fact that at a 1-6 record, likelihood of going to the playoffs is slim to none, but you can still salvage the season and make it successful if you were able to turn around and maybe get to 7 wins or 8.
Yes, but
It's a little
at
bit of
the
a
same
positive.
time, then you better evaluate your roster. You better figure out who matters on that roster, who your leaders are, and then who you have to replace and upgrade.
Absolutely. We were talking the other day, and I don't know how well you know. I know you know your son's school, Cardinal Gibbons. What are the other teams? We wanted to talk a little bit about South Florida high school, or actually Florida high school football. I wanted to bring it up because you know it better than I do. Which teams are the ones to watch? Obviously, St. Thomas Aquinas, Plantation American Heritage, Cardinal Gibbons. What are some of the other teams, and what are some of the upcoming games that you think are going to be key to high school football this year here in Florida?
Well, today starts the GMAC Dade County Championships. So everyone from Columbus to Miami Central, Miami Carroll, Northwestern, they're all playing this weekend. The great football down there. As far as a lot of the other playoffs, what's the school's name? I'm forgetting. So we got Cardinal Gibbons out of here in Fort Lauderdale. We were up. We got beat by St. Thomas. Came back and beat the number 1 team in the state on the road, Venice.
That was a nice
which is a
win.
huge win. We lost by 3 to American Heritage Plantation on the last-second field goal. That's coached by former Dolphin Patrick Surtain.
Yep.
But then a team we beat earlier in the year, Buckholz, up at Gainesville, they go into Jacksonville Bulls. They beat Jacksonville Bulls.
That's
So
a
now
big
they're
win.
coming back. So that probably gave us the 4A number 1 seed for us. But there's so many schools down here that are just fighting for their lives, and the competition's absolutely great. So you got Naples, Barron Collier, I think, is playing really well. Naples High is playing well. Got Cocoa Beach up north. Cocoa Beach always has a great team every year.
And I've got to get back into it and start following the high school football down here, because I know here in Florida, high school football here is almost getting as big, if not bigger, than high school football is and was in Texas.
No, these 3 counties right here between Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach County, we have about 210 Division I players a year. In the state of Florida, we have 300. So to put that in perspective, a state like Texas and the entire state will have 200 kids.
Sure.
We have 200 kids at 90 miles right here. California has about 220 kids in the entire state.
The entire state.
And the South Florida will have just as many with the 3 counties. You go to a state like Illinois, they'll have 50.
Oh, come out
You go to
Nevada.
Minnesota, you'll have 10.
Nevada, all we got is Bishop Gorman. Good school.
But a lot of those kids are not from Vegas.
No,
from
they're all
California.
imported in, yeah. Anything else on the high school football front that you can think of for this weekend?
I think all the games are pretty tame this weekend. We've all played our tough games. We got 2 weeks left in the regular season.
All right.
And then we'll start ramping up for the playoffs and see where everyone's sitting right now.
Well, we'll definitely investigate a little bit more of the South Florida and actually the entire state of Florida's high school football systems, and we'll see a little bit more about that next week. And probably maybe we'll have a few stats and some insight on some of the players to watch at some of the games coming up, and then the playoff previews.
Oh, yeah, that's another one I forgot. Chaminade Madonna. They are playing lights out. I think they're ranked 2nd in the state right now, behind IMG.
I remember when I was going to high school at South Plantation in Chaminade. Mike Shula was coach. Not coach. He was the quarterback at Chaminade.
Yep. Out of Miami Lakes.
Yes,
Yeah, that's why Mike was there.
So
But,
we'll
it is-
definitely follow that a lot more.
Yeah, but it's so much fun if you're a football fan, especially living in Florida and South Florida. to see so many great players, and you see them go on and play week in and week out around the country in college football, and then go to the National Football League. I mean, American Heritage had 6 players drafted last year in the NFL.
That's amazing.
Out of one high school. I mean, that's mind-boggling. Pat Surtain.
That goes to show you, when you got an a former NFL great that comes in and coaches your high school team, hey, that's top coaching.
Well, they got Daryl Porter coaching their DBs as well. Right. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's why I think, because you see all of these former Dolphin players, they're getting involved with their kids who are now in high school, and their kids are as good, if not maybe better than they were. I mean, look at Pat Surtain Jr.
We had to go against Jason Taylor last week or 2 weeks ago. So,
yeah, 2 weeks ago.
No, it's great. Twan Russell's now the AD at St. Thomas as well. Another great time, all-time great Miami Dolphin. But it's so much fun to watch these kids grow up. And I've been doing this. I coached a lot of these kids in youth football after I left college coaching. So I've been coaching these kids all since they were 5, and now they're starting to graduate.
You're watching them all grow up and turn into
they're moving on and going to college. So it's been so much fun.
That's fantastic. Well, like I said, we'll come back next week. We'll have some more on high school football, and we'll follow it throughout the rest of the season up to the championship games. Let's come back to the Dolphins and wrap this thing up. You got any predictions for – I hate to do a prediction for this game because it's so difficult. We're number 1. We're on the road. We're 1-6, losers of 6 in a row. All of this other talk that's going on, you got to wonder where not only Tua's head is, but everybody else, every other player on that team. So it's really tough to make a prediction. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm going to say the Dolphins are going to come out fired up. They're going to come out with something to prove, a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I'm going to say Buffalo overlooks us this week, and we pull off the surprise upset of the week in the National Football League with a last-second field goal of our own to surprise Buffalo in Buffalo.
That certainly could happen. And if that was the case, I would take the under on my bar tab.
Oh, I think you absolutely
I'll
have
take
to
the under on the bar
tab
if the Dolphins beat Buffalo. But it's certainly possible that they'll overlook Miami. They've had a lot of success this year. And when you're a young team, and Buffalo's still a young team.
Yes, they are.
Learning how to win is tough.
Right.
I mean, learning how to win consistently is tough. This is certainly a game that the Buffalo could overlook and let us creep a win out.
Well, this is one of those games, and I know, and I don't know if you were there. There was one of those games. This is what they call a trap game. And I remember a story once with Dave Wanstedt was worried about a trap game he thought was coming up against the New York Jets. So all the players came in Monday or whenever it was, and Dave Wanstedt had gone out and gotten a whole bunch of lobster traps and hung them up all over the locker room.
That was a year after I left, but yes, I do remember that. And there's always those trap games. Usually a good trap game is when you're going into a bye week and you have an opponent with a losing record coming in, because you're making travel plans, you're booking hotels. Sure. You know you got a week off in the following, or a couple of days off the following week. So it is a trap game, but this is a trap game for Buffalo. This is Buffalo's trap game.
Yeah, in a way it is, because you obviously you're rolling along. What are they? They're 6-1, right?
They're rolling.
They're rolling. And here we come in there. I mean, we're not only limping. I think we're coming in on a gurney. So this is certainly a trap game for Buffalo. I think they could just overlook us a little bit and go, it kind of. You look. This is one of those. They're looking at the schedule, and I know the coaches try not to have the players do this, but it's human nature. You're looking at a team like Miami, and you're just kind of chalking it up as a win.
Yep. So hopefully that we catch them sleeping.
You got any prediction on the score?
Bar tab under 100 if the Dolphins win. Bar tab over 100 if the Dolphins lose.
Wow.
But I could see something like 24-17, Miami.
All right. Well, there you have it. John, anything else you want to say this week before we sign off? Anything in general?
No, I'm content. I'm disappointed the Dolphins have moved in this direction and created this amount of outside noise outside the building. It's tough to concentrate during the season anyways. And the Deshaun Watson talks and trades and when it's going to happen and won't it happen or if it's going to happen.
It's a
Goodell and the NFL. That's just it's too much to put on a team that's already struggling. Yeah. So the thing I would say is I'm disappointed the way the Dolphins handled it. But they're the ones in control. Let's see if they can make it work.
Absolutely. Well, I agree with you. It's a distraction. And I just hope I hope as bad of a distraction as it is, I hope it doesn't turn into a full-fledged circus. because if that's the case, we could see some problems with this organization for many years to come. But I hope that the Dolphins actually let's go get a win this week on the road in Buffalo. I'm Brad Michaels along with John Bach for Dolphin Radio, and we'll see you next week, hopefully with a W in the win column.
Thanks for watching or listening. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And for more great content, check us out on the web at www.dolphinradio.com.